So wearable technology can only benefit our health insofar as it's capable of inspiring durable behavior change. As we've heard at many of the presentations today, data alone are insufficient. What we need is a story that goes around those data. We need to keep in mind our own biology that functions on a feeling first and thinking second. What stands in our way from really making the best use of wearable technology for improving our health benefits are quite a wide variety of hurdles. Namely, we have a lack of good data to build a baseline. In our rush, maybe, to put these things in the hands of consumers, we didn't take a lot of time to really develop who's going to benefit, when are they going to benefit, how are they going to use it. We had a lack of public and private partnership so that private enterprise could share their data with research universities like USC. And we had a lack of controlled testing. We didn't collect data in a very structured way. Well, today we actually want to tell the next chapter in this story. It's based on a partnership between VSP and the Center for Body Computing. VSP developed a very novel piece of hardware. Embedded in the temple of prescriptive eyewear is a sensor that tracks users' data. It does it in a seamless device that requires no additional garment to wear. Paired with this very beautiful piece of hardware, which our own Jay Sales is modeling, is an app designed to measure and keep track of people very carefully that we designed using modern behavioral neuroscience and decision-making science principles. The app itself connected people to a social network of others using the glasses. It provided a way for them to exchange information, likes, comments, etc. And thanks to VSP, those who met a certain number of daily step goals could actually have a charitable donation made in their name to a charity of their choice. So we folded in the motivation that people can have to be more active on a daily basis. We combine that with the social community that we can build in an app, and we added the additional layer of altruistic motivation as it's been shown to lead to increased mobility overall. Using USC employees as a sample provided us the chance to have a very interesting and diverse and large representative sample whose demographic breakdown matches that of the general population in terms of gender, ethnicity, and age. And we see immediately that of these demographic predictors, age is the only one that actually predicted increased behavior and increased physical activity overall. Now, for those of you who do clinical trials or research in general, I'm going to break your heart. We assembled this population in a week. That's what you get with this kind of partnership. Wonderful. Now, we did learn a lot about this because we were aiming to set the baseline for how people use this wearable tech. What we saw was a drop-off in user activity comparable to previously published reports. We saw that people abandoned the device at a regular rate, but they noted that the ease of use and the difficulties with charging and syncing often informed why they would get a little frustrated with the device. Conversely, we saw that those who thought the device was comfortable, easy to use, and easy to charge actually used the activity, or actually had higher levels of activity throughout the study in general. Perhaps even better news, we saw that behavioral incentives are actually powerful motivators. Within the app is a digital coach that presented feedback to the participants such that imagine you're 50% away from your daily goal, get up and move and meet that goal. So these tiny little nudges were actually very effective and statistically significantly effective at eliciting a greater degree of activity when presented to our participants. More interesting to me is that framing these prompts according to reminding participants about altruistic or self-motivated, self-focused motivations did not really differ in terms of how much we could inspire people, but that we could inspire people with a little dumb digital coach is pretty heartening and should be the target of future research questions as we really delineate how to do this most effectively. What's more, because our participants began the experiment by filling out a full battery of psychological questionnaires that I set up to actually determine what's the personality type of a person who's actually going to use this stuff, we actually learned for the first time that people higher in life satisfaction and those who were motivated by the charitable aspects of the study took more steps overall, giving us the beginning of a blueprint for how to manipulate the variables for predicting who's going to actually benefit from wearable tech. We have a number of challenges ahead of us, but the study gave me 3 tips for anybody hoping to design such technology. 1, the goal setting must be reachable but challenging. We say this is one case where it's actually not too hard to use adaptive machine learning to learn how to stretch. What kind of goals are people willing to get up and reach? Targeted behaviors must be rewarded richly, meaning people that you're trying to inspire to do one behavior or another need to be motivated carefully. And social motivations must be central, powerful, and geared toward shared community. Everybody who buys one of these wearable tech devices does so in an act of optimism. That's our emotion. It's our duty to take that optimism and actually translate that into benefits to daily life and well-being. So it's my pleasure to be joined here with Dr. Flowers and Jay Sales. And Jay was a tremendous partner, works at VSP, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about their thoughts about the study and where we were going. So maybe, Jay, can you kick us off? What's the future for contextual health, which is such an important feature of VSP, and where do you see this all going?
So first of all, one of the interesting things about VSP Global is we cover 84 million lives worldwide. We're the largest healthcare provider by member. Within that, it's a vision care health benefit. What we're really good at is we have core efficiencies at designing eyewear, optics, the insurance platform, and the EMR, EHR side of it as well. And so the technology is extremely strong. And we have another core element, which is the charitable giving, which with the charitable giving that we did in this was we actually gave away a free pair of glasses and a complete eye exam, comprehensive eye exam, to somebody in need. But that wasn't enough for us to do something like this. We had to come to a group like USC Center for Biocomputing to put those elements together so that we had outside input and multidisciplinary assets to take a shot at something like this and put some rigor to it.
Right.
Because we are a healthcare entity. We have to have rigor behind what we put out as a product like this. Where do I see it going in the future? The future of healthcare and adult. One of the things that's really important to understand for everybody in this room is that as we're moving forward into things like contextualizing your health and utilizing technologies, it's not the technology that is making things break through. It's the utilization of that technology that is the breakthrough. And how those things are brought together through collaboration, which leads to vulnerability, which leads to shared empathy. That's why you do collaborations like this. At the same time, we're moving in a really rapid way that health is an asset category. Your health is your asset. Hence, that data is yours. So what we're seeing going forward is through technologies such as blockchain and the use of identity by consensus, we're seeing the advent of borderless health coming quickly. Within the next decade, we'll probably see borders being dropped in healthcare.
Wow, and actually that's a really good transition because one of the things with VSP, it's driven in large part by optometrists and providers and healthcare experts. Now, Dr. Flowers is an ophthalmologist. Now, how can you imagine that this technology is going to help your job focus on the aspects of maybe surgery or more complex cases or more difficult clinical diagnoses that you'd rather spend time? If you can use a technology like this to offload maybe some of the more bare bones patient management and diagnosis to optometrists, can you imagine a world in which this technology is going to help you in your job as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fascinating. It's actually the first step because really, as a surgeon, as a medical provider, one of the things that we're looking at even now in terms of going to the next step is contact lenses that can sense different physiology. Your tear film has over 300 proteins in it. And we can assess your electrolyte levels, we can assess your blood sugar, we can look at your oxygen consumption. So there's a lot of, so really we're looking at partner with guys like this so we can go to the next step to develop things where, hey, if you're diabetic, we can sense if your blood sugar is high or low, just based on the contact lens sensor. So this is like the first step. Even with those glasses, if you can put sensors, you can detect your sweat concentration, you can get electrolyte balance. So you can have an augmented flash on the lens to say, hey, you need to drink a load of water. So it's just the sky's the limit. And again, one of the things that I always want to point out, and I hear a lot about data, but data is not information, and more importantly, data is not meaningful information. So
Yep.
just because we're collecting data, data has to be analyzed, it has to be synthesized, and we have to basically interpret what that data means and derive meaning from that data. And so part of it is collecting data, that's true, but the next step is doing that analysis so that we can derive meaningful information from that data. But yeah, this is great stuff, and we're already thinking about ways we can use this to augment monitoring patients and care.
And along that line, the contact lens and glasses like these, this is a pair of Level actually, where the technology disappears. This is a platform for healthcare. And in the telemetry from above, the shoulders and above, is far richer than people realize. So as we move forward, there's so many things that you can derive from the eye early on, diabetes.
Exactly.
So, and we can go, the list is long, the cardiac, it goes on and on and on. So it's a really rich platform for healthcare.
Well, and one of the things that's so interesting, it fits in sports and many other things, but you lead with your head, right? So you have this accelerometer in the temple of your glasses. It can actually tell you a lot about your basic activity. And one of the things about the data in the study that's so funny, so a lot of people, you've seen these cartoons of the people cheating their Fitbit by like, oh yeah, I get my steps in today, right? And you can't do that with the glasses, right? Because it's on your head. And the algorithm that they developed actually was an extreme challenge to capture what is a unit of activity. We're careful to say this is not a step counter. If we're just trying to make a step counter, we're wasting our time. So maybe it fits really well into how we can actually measure people's movement in a meaningful way. And that's part of the psychological challenge of also telling them.
So we took this, there's been a lot of work in reducing the noise. Everybody, a lot of people talk about throw the word sensors around as if it's the magic bullet. We took a lot of time in just reducing things like driving. So if you drive with your Fitbit or with a device that's standard, even this one, before we got done doing the work, it would pick up 800 steps in 100 miles possibly. With us, we took a lot of time to filter that noise out in the algorithms, so that because I had at the time I had a truck with bad suspension. I was the one who caught the issue on this thing, and so we've taken all those use cases and really tried to filter it out. There's a magnetometer gyroscope also in the temple as well.
Oh, very
Yeah, and the exciting thing about me is, as you know, one of the areas that I've kind of started to focus is on sports vision. I'm in the process of developing a sports vision training center, and so one of the issues for me is how I'm actually interested in how athletes are using their eyes. And so with that device, I can look at whether or not they're a head turner or they can move their eyes. It takes more time to move your head as opposed to you can take what we call a quick saccade, and I want to know who are the head turners, and I can train the head turners to become more eye turners by just the sensors we can place in that are not bulky. A lot of the eye tracking devices are very bulky, they're awkward. Well, that's very nice. We can drop them in there, and I can start assessing what their visual performance is and enhance that visual performance so I can therefore enhance their athletic performance in the field.
And you can train eye tracking as well.
Right, exactly.
It's a very common paradigm in science as well. Can you imagine then a use case where you have the role in sports, especially with visual acuity and centering your eyes on a target, but that also relates to how we understand peripheral vision and macular degeneration.
That's correct.
Right? Because now you have technology for teaching people how to look at things off in the periphery, which is much blurrier. And so tell us a little bit more about this mission of your Sports Vision Institute and how that fits into health in general, and also your mission as ophthalmologist to help people heal.
Well, one of the things is that basically, vision leads motor, right? Everything is initiated from a visual precept that an athlete sees, whether it's catching a baseball, football, whatever. And that even translates into your academic performance, because right now, even the studies that we're looking at is that if we can enhance their visual performance on the playing field, we actually enhance their academic performance in the classroom. So we're looking at all these different things in terms of the fact that generally it traditionally thought that visual performance was innate. You couldn't train it. We now know from traumatic brain studies, traumatic injury studies, that that brain has neuroplasticity, that you can train their brain, you can enhance visual performance and enhance athletic performance and just general visual performance for just day-to-day activities, whether it's working on the computer or reading your textbooks or what have you.
Yeah, one of the most common differences I see working and teaching at USC and then also visiting and teaching in schools where the kids come from underrepresented backgrounds, probably the most common behavior I see in those kids is squinting. Because they're often have undiagnosed myopia.
Sure, right.
So this is one of those areas where I think, your eye is a connection to your brain, quite literally.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Now, Jay, tell us a little bit more about what are the next steps for Level, and what do you see? What are you most excited about coming up?
Well, first of all, I'm most excited about the learnings that we've gotten from the study. We're in the process right now of taking those learnings, building, measuring, learning from them, and putting them into the next version of the product. So we've been really well informed by the study. Beyond that, we'll keep that kind of on the down low right now. But in terms of where we go with something like eyewear as a platform or contacts even, what we're talking about here is not for elite athletes, though. It's not for the elite. This is something that, by being a member of VSP, this will be a part of your benefit. So it'll be the first wearable device that's part of your benefit. That's important to understand. There's a difference there. And this is for people who wear glasses. So it's not something it's a very democratized utilization. And we're taking away the need to add anything to the body, because we're already solving a problem with glasses, which is super important. Utilizing something that's already solving a problem and adding value to it and basically making that part of the benefit of your package, that's what our plans are.
Fantastic. Yeah, and one of the things we saw from participants, they regularly reported that that form factor was extremely important. They really enjoyed that they didn't have to do it. It became part of their day-to-day thing, that they just charge their glasses next to their phone, which is a funny thing to be saying you charge your glasses. But here we are. And actually, we have a couple minutes for questions from the audience. If anybody has any questions about the study or about anything we're doing up here. Do we have microphones ready to go for people? Yeah, go ahead right here. I can repeat the question too. So. Yeah.
Are you planning to also measure through this kind of your level of stress, either through the eye or through just the overall kind of very similar to things like Spire? I mean, you're pretty close to the temple in terms of understanding somebody's heart rate.
So like I said, we see this as a platform, and iterations down the line, everything's open and on the table. We've proven in the lab quite a few different things that we can do. Right now we're focused on getting Level out the door as we ran it here from the study perspective.
And I want to say how awesome it's been being a part of the team, the entire engineering and development team, including Sean Garland, who I wish was here.
Christine Folk.
Yeah, Christine Folk and Leslie Mueller is here, and Mona, Ben, and Andrew Keeble have just been great. It's been so fun. I really can't recommend enough how important it is for these public-private partnerships. You just get so much. It's really fun to do. It's just so worth it.
It helps you start creating relationships like this one right here. I mean, there's so many things that we plan on doing in the future.
Let's thank Dr. Glenn Fox, Dr. Charles Flowers, and Jay Sayers.